Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Discovery, watching the alien ship grow larger on the main screen. 3 months had passed since humanity first met the Zephyrians, and he still felt amazed by how friendly they were. The sleek alien vessel looked nothing like human ships. It was smooth and curved, like it had been grown rather than built. "Signal coming in from the Zephyrian ship," said Lieutenant Gary Wells from his station. "Ambassador Veltar wants to speak with you, Captain." Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. These talks were important for all of humanity. Earth needed friends out here in space, and the Zephyrians seemed perfect. They had offered medicine that could cure diseases humans had never been able to fix. They also had maps of star systems that would take humans centuries to explore on their own. The screen flickered, and Ambassador Veltar appeared. The Zephyrian looked almost human, except for the blue-tinted skin and large golden eyes. Veltar always smiled when talking to humans, which made Jake feel more comfortable. "Captain Morrison," Veltar said in perfect English, "I hope you are ready for today's meeting. We have much to discuss about your world joining our alliance." "We're ready, Ambassador," Jake replied. "Dr. Palmer has prepared the biological samples you requested, and Commander Blake has the cultural information files." Dr. Lisa Palmer looked up from her science station. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, and the Zephyrians seemed very interested in her work. They asked detailed questions about human biology, and wanted samples of Earth's plants and animals. Veltar had explained this was normal when a new species joined their alliance. They needed to understand human needs to help them properly. Commander Ryan Blake, the ship's language expert, had been working with Zephyrian linguists for weeks. The aliens learned human languages incredibly fast. They could speak English, Spanish, Chinese, and Arabic after just a few days of study. Blake found this impressive but also strange. Most humans took years to learn new language as well. "Before we begin," Veltar continued, "I want to assure you again that the Zephyrian Alliance only wants peace. For over 2,000 years, our 7-member species have lived together without war. We have no armies, no weapons of destruction. We explore, we learn, and we help each other grow." Jake smiled. This was exactly what humanity needed to hear. Earth had just recovered from several small wars, and people were tired of fighting. The idea of joining a peaceful alliance of alien species sounded like a dream come true. The meeting began as usual in the Discovery's conference room. Veltar brought 2 other Zephyrians with him. One was a scientist named Kethra, and the other was a historian called Morden. They always asked the same types of questions about Earth's history, its people, and its ecosystems. "Tell us more about your planet's oceans," Kethra said to Dr. Palmer. "We are fascinated by the diversity of life in Earth's water systems. Our own worlds have simpler ocean environments." Dr. Palmer showed them videos of coral reefs, deep-sea creatures, and marine ecosystems. The Zephyrians watched with great interest, taking detailed notes. They seemed especially excited about Earth's genetic diversity. "Your world is truly remarkable," Morden added. "Most planets we encounter have only a few 100,000 species. Earth has millions. This makes humans very special." Commander Blake shared information about human cultures, languages, and art. The Zephyrians loved learning about human creativity. They said their own alliance had become too focused on science and had lost much of their artistic spirit. Humans could bring new ideas and fresh thinking to their civilization. "We would like to visit Earth soon," Veltar said near the end of the meeting. "A small group of our scientists would study your ecosystems firsthand. In return, we will share our medical technology. We have cures for what you call cancer, heart disease, and many genetic disorders." Jake felt excited but tried to stay professional. "I'll need to discuss this with Earth Command, but I think our leaders will be very interested." After the Zephyrians left, Jake's senior officers gathered in his ready room. Dr. Palmer seemed thoughtful, which usually meant she had questions about something. "Captain," she said, "I've been reviewing the biological data they've shared about their home worlds. Something seems odd." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "They say their alliance has existed for 2,000 years with 7 different species, but the genetic samples show signs of recent population bottlenecks. It's like these species had much smaller numbers not very long ago." Commander Blake nodded. "I've noticed something similar with their languages. They claim to have been together for millennia, but the linguistic evolution doesn't match. It's like they only started really communicating a few generations ago." Jake considered this. Maybe their records are incomplete, or we're misunderstanding something. They've been nothing but helpful and honest with us. Back on Earth, Admiral Greg Cooper sat in his office at Terra Command, reading reports from the Discovery. The negotiations were going well, maybe too well. Cooper had spent 30 years in the military, and something about the Zephyrians made him uneasy. They were too perfect, too willing to share advanced technology with a species they had just met. Cooper looked out his window at Earth's blue sky. Somewhere beyond the outer planets, the USS Retribution waited in the darkness of space. The battleship was humanity's most advanced warship, built using new technologies developed after first contact. The Zephyrians didn't know it existed, and Cooper planned to keep it that way until he was sure about their new alien friends. He picked up a secure communicator and contacted Captain Nick Davis aboard the Retribution. "How are things out there, Captain?" "All quiet, Admiral," Davis replied. "No sign of any Zephyrian ships in the outer system. They seem to be keeping their promise to only approach Earth through official diplomatic channels." "Good, stay alert. Something about this whole situation feels too easy." Cooper ended the call and returned to his reports. The Zephyrians offered everything humanity needed: medical advances, star maps, peaceful alliance, and protection from hostile species. It was exactly what Earth's leaders wanted to hear after years of worrying about what might be waiting in the dark spaces between stars. But Cooper had learned to trust his instincts, and those instincts whispered warnings. In his experience, when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. He hoped he was wrong about the Zephyrians, but until he was certain, humanity's most powerful weapon would remain hidden and ready. The peaceful talks would continue, but Cooper would be watching and waiting for any sign that Earth's new friends might not be as friendly as they appeared. Dr. Lisa Palmer stared at her computer screen for the third time that morning, hoping the data would somehow change. 2 months of working with Zephyrian biological samples had raised more questions than answers. The numbers didn't lie, but they told a story that made her uncomfortable. She walked across the USS Discovery's science lab to where Commander Ryan Blake was reviewing Zephyrian language files. His dark hair was messy from running his hands through it, which meant he was frustrated about something. "Ryan, I need to show you something," Lisa said quietly. "But not here." Blake looked up and saw her worried expression. He saved his work and followed her to a small storage room where they could talk privately. Lisa pulled out her tablet and showed him genetic charts covered in red warning markers. "Look at this data from the Zephyrian homeworlds," she whispered. "They told us their 7 species have been allies for 2,000 years, right?" "That's what they said," Blake replied, studying the charts.
"What am I looking at?"
"Genetic bottlenecks. Severe ones. These populations went through massive reductions recently, maybe within the last 50 to 100 years. It's like most of each species died off, leaving only small groups to rebuild." Blake frowned. "That could explain what I've been finding in their language patterns. They claim ancient alliance, but the way they communicate suggests they only started working together recently. Their shared vocabulary is too new." Lisa felt her stomach tighten. What if they lied about how long they've been together? Or what if something happened to reduce their populations drastically? Blake added, "War, disease, natural disaster?" Before Lisa could answer, her communicator beeped. Captain Morrison's voice came through clearly. "Dr. Palmer, Commander Blake, please report to the bridge immediately." They hurried through the ship's corridors, trying to look normal. On the bridge, Captain Morrison stood near the communication station with Lieutenant Gary Wells. The captain's face showed concern. "We just received a priority message from Earth Command," Morrison said. "Several of our outer colonies have gone silent over the past week. The last transmissions mentioned unusual stellar phenomena and requests for emergency evacuation." Lisa and Blake exchanged glances. "Which colonies, Captain?" Blake asked. "New Brisbane, Kepler Station, and the mining facility at Titan 7. All of them are in sectors near Zephyrian space." Morrison pulled up a star map showing the affected areas. "The strange thing is, their final messages were cut off mid-transmission," Lieutenant Wells added. "I've been monitoring Zephyrian communications. When I asked Ambassador Veltar about the colony problems, he said those areas often have dangerous space weather. Solar storms, gravitational anomalies, that sort of thing." Lisa studied the star map. The silent colonies formed a rough line along the border between human and Zephyrian territory. "Captain, has anyone tried to send ships to investigate?" "Earth Command dispatched 2 scout ships, but they haven't reported back yet." Admiral Cooper is concerned but doesn't want to appear suspicious to our Zephyrian allies. Back on Earth, intelligence analyst Kate Sullivan worked late in her basement office at Terra Command. Most people had gone home hours ago, but Kate preferred the quiet for her detailed analysis work. She specialized in finding patterns in communication data, and something in the original first contact recordings bothered her. Kate played the audio files from humanity's first meeting with the Zephyrians 3 months ago. The main conversation was clear, but she focused on the background noise. Hidden in the static and electromagnetic interference, she found something others had missed. She isolated the background signals and ran them through various filters. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Faint voices speaking in an unknown language, clearly distressed, repeating the same phrases over and over. The voices sounded desperate, like they were calling for help. Kate checked the timestamps. These hidden distress calls had continued for 3 days after first contact began, then stopped completely. She tried to trace their origin, but found only empty space in that region now. She grabbed her secure phone and called Admiral Cooper's personal line. Even though it was late, she knew he would want to see this immediately. "Admiral, this is Kate Sullivan in Intelligence Analysis. I found something in the first contact recordings that you need to see right away." 20 minutes later, Cooper arrived at Kate's office, still wearing his civilian clothes. Kate played the hidden transmissions for him, watching his expression grow more serious with each repetition. "Do we have any idea what language this is?" Cooper asked. "Nothing in our databases. It's completely unknown. But Admiral, the timing is what worries me. These calls started during our first meeting with the Zephyrians and stopped exactly 3 days later." Cooper sat back in his chair, processing the implications. "You think someone was trying to warn us?" "It's possible. The tone and repetition patterns suggest distress signals. Someone was calling for help and then they just stopped." Cooper made a decision. "I want you to analyze every communication we've received from the Zephyrians. Look for any more hidden signals, background noise, anything that seems out of place." "Yes, sir." "There's something else, Admiral." I cross-referenced the source location of these signals with our star charts. There should be a small civilization in that area according to our deep space surveys, but recent scans show nothing but empty space. Cooper felt cold despite the warm office. "Keep this between us for now, Kate, but I want a full report by tomorrow morning." In the outer solar system, Captain Nick Davis walked through the USS Retribution's bridge, checking on his night shift crew. The battleship floated silently in space, all non-essential systems powered down to avoid detection. For 2 months they had waited and watched, ready to defend Earth if needed. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Foster from the sensor station, "I'm picking up some unusual readings from the direction of the outer colonies." Davis moved to her station. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures consistent with weapons fire, but they're very faint and old. Maybe a week or 2. The patterns suggest orbital bombardment." Davis felt his blood run cold. Orbital bombardment meant someone had attacked the colonies from space. "Are you certain?" "The signatures match our own weapons testing, but on a much larger scale. Someone hit those colonies hard." Davis activated the ship's secure communication system and sent an encrypted message to Admiral Cooper. If the colonies had been attacked, Earth needed to know immediately. The Zephyrians had claimed that region of space was dangerous due to natural phenomena, but weapons fire wasn't natural. As he sent the message, Davis wondered what else the Zephyrians hadn't told them. The friendly aliens had seemed too good to be true from the beginning. Now he was starting to understand why Admiral Cooper had insisted on keeping the Retribution hidden. Back on the Discovery, Captain Morrison received another message from Ambassador Veltar. The Zephyrian wanted to accelerate the Alliance treaty negotiations. He claimed that dangerous forces in the galaxy made it urgent for humanity to join their protective alliance as soon as possible. Morrison agreed to the faster timeline, but something in Veltar's tone seemed different. The usual warm friendliness had been replaced by an undercurrent of urgency that made Morrison uneasy. He decided to contact Admiral Cooper privately to discuss his concerns. As night fell on both Earth and the Discovery, humanity's leaders began to realize that their peaceful first contact might not be as simple as it appeared. Hidden signals, missing colonies, and genetic evidence that didn't match Zephyrian claims painted a darker picture of their new alien friends. The question was whether they would discover the truth in time to do anything about it. Captain Nick Davis felt his heart racing as the USS Retribution approached the coordinates where New Brisbane colony should have been. His orders from Admiral Cooper were clear. Investigate the silent colonies but remain hidden from any Zephyrian ships. The battleship's advanced stealth systems kept them invisible, but Davis knew they were taking a huge risk. Visual contact with the colony site, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the science station. Captain, you need to see this. The main screen showed what remained of New Brisbane. The planet's surface was scarred with massive craters where the colony buildings once stood. Twisted metal debris floated in orbit, the remains of ships and space stations. Everything was dead. How long ago? Davis asked quietly. Foster ran detailed scans of the destruction. Based on radiation decay and debris patterns, I'd estimate 10 to 12 days ago. This matches when they sent their last distress call. Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's archaeologist and science officer, studied the weapon signatures embedded in the planet's surface. She had spent years analyzing ancient battlefields, but this destruction was recent and devastating. Captain, these blast patterns don't match any known natural phenomena. This was deliberate orbital bombardment using high-energy weapons. Whoever did this wanted to completely destroy the colony. Davis ordered the ship to the next coordinates. Kepler Station had been humanity's furthest outpost, a research facility studying a nearby nebula. What they found there was even worse. The space station was gone, vaporized completely. But floating in the debris field were the remains of something else. Alien structures that looked nothing like human technology. Foster used the ship's advanced sensors to examine the wreckage. Captain, I'm reading metal compositions and design patterns that don't match human or Zephyrian technology. These structures belong to someone else entirely. You mean there was another alien species here? Not just here, sir. I'm detecting similar debris at all 3 colony sites. It's like entire civilizations were living in these systems and someone destroyed them along with our colonies. Davis realized the horrible truth. The human colonies hadn't been the primary targets. They had simply been in the wrong place when someone wiped out indigenous alien civilizations. Foster continued her analysis of the alien ruins. Based on the architecture and technology level, these beings were highly advanced. Their cities show evidence of sophisticated engineering and art. Captain, some of this destruction is older than our colonies. I think the aliens were attacked first and our people just got caught in the aftermath. The Retribution moved to the 3rd site, Titan 7 mining facility. Here Foster made the most disturbing discovery yet. In the asteroid field where the facility once operated, she found preserved alien structures that had been flash-frozen when their atmospheric domes were breached. I'm detecting what looks like an entire alien city inside this asteroid, Foster reported. The preservation is incredible. I can see their buildings, technology, even what might be bodies. Davis authorized a careful investigation using remote drones. The images they transmitted back showed a beautiful alien civilization. Tall, crystalline beings who had carved their city from the inside of the asteroid. Their art and architecture suggested a peaceful, advanced culture, focused on science and philosophy. Look at this, Foster said, pointing to symbols carved into a central monument. These appear to be names or memorial inscriptions. There are thousands of them. The drones found more evidence throughout the alien city. Computer terminals, though damaged, still contained data that Foster began decoding. Slowly, a picture emerged of the civilization's final days. Captain, I think I can partially translate their records. They mention visitors who came in peace offering friendship and alliance. The aliens welcomed them and shared information about their culture and technology. Davis felt sick as he realized what Foster had discovered. Go on. The peaceful visitors studied them for months, learning everything about their society, their biology, their defenses. Then, without warning, the visitors' ships revealed hidden weapons and began the bombardment. Foster pulled up more alien records, showing images of the attacking ships. Davis stared at the screen in horror. The vessels looked exactly like Zephyrian ships, but with their peaceful exterior panels removed to reveal massive weapon systems. The aliens tried to broadcast warnings to other civilizations, Foster continued. They called their attackers the False Alliance and warned that they used friendship as a weapon to study their victims before destroying them. Davis understood now why Admiral Cooper had insisted on keeping the Retribution hidden. The Zephyrians weren't peaceful allies. They were systematic exterminators who used diplomacy to gather intelligence on their targets. Amy, how many alien civilizations do these records mention? Foster checked the data. At least a dozen different species. All of them describe the same pattern. Peaceful contact, cultural exchange, detailed biological and technological surveys, then sudden annihilation. The Retribution's communication system crackled with an incoming message from Earth. Admiral Cooper's voice was tense and urgent. Captain Davis, we've made contact with survivors from the Kepler station attack. A research ship escaped the initial bombardment and has been hiding in the nebula. They report that the attackers were Zephyrian vessels with concealed weapon systems. Davis felt cold understanding wash over him. Admiral, we found evidence of multiple alien civilizations that were wiped out using the same methods. The Zephyrians appear to be systematic genocidists. How long until they're finished studying us? Cooper asked. Foster had been monitoring Zephyrian communication patterns from the Discovery. Based on the alien records and current diplomatic progress, I estimate we have maybe days before they consider their intelligence gathering complete. Cooper's voice was grim. Captain, I'm uploading all intelligence data to your systems. Kate Sullivan found hidden distress calls in our first contact recordings. The voices were calling for help in what we now know was the Karani language, one of the extinct species you found evidence of. Davis realized the full scope of the threat. They're still following the same pattern with us. Peaceful contact, study our weaknesses, then extermination. Captain Morrison and the diplomatic team don't know yet. The Zephyrians are jamming our long-range communications to the Discovery. We need to warn them before the alliance treaty is signed. Foster looked up from her analysis. Admiral, there's something else. The alien records mention that some members of conquered species were kept alive as slaves to help with future operations. The Zephyrian alliance isn't made up of 7 peaceful species working together. What do you mean? Cooper asked. The 7 species are the only survivors of their respective civilizations. They're being forced to help the Zephyrians conquer other races, probably under threat of complete extinction. Davis understood the implications. So when we see Zephyrian ships with multiple alien species aboard, we're looking at prisoners, not allies. Exactly. And if we sign that treaty, we'll be giving them everything they need to destroy Earth just like they destroyed these other worlds. Cooper made his decision. Captain Davis, I'm ordering you to break communication silence. Get to the Discovery immediately and expose the truth before Captain Morrison signs humanity's death warrant. Davis turned to his crew. All hands, prepare for maximum acceleration toward the diplomatic meeting. We're going to crash their party and show them what their peaceful friends really are. As the USS Retribution powered up its engines and raced toward the Discovery, Davis wondered if they would arrive in time. The evidence was overwhelming. The Zephyrians had perfected genocide through diplomacy, and Earth was their next target. But humanity had one advantage the other species hadn't possessed. They had built the Retribution in secret, a weapon the Zephyrians didn't know existed. For the first time in what looked like centuries, their victims would be able to fight back. Captain Jake Morrison adjusted his dress uniform one final time as he prepared for the most important ceremony in human history. Today, Earth would officially join the Zephyrian Alliance, gaining access to advanced medical technology and protection from hostile alien species. The signing would take place aboard the Zephyrian flagship, with representatives from all 7 Alliance species present. Ambassador Veltar had seemed unusually eager to complete the ceremony quickly. He claimed that dangerous forces in the galaxy required immediate human integration into their defensive alliance. Morrison felt honored that the Zephyrians were so concerned about Earth's safety. Captain, Dr. Lisa Palmer said quietly as they walked toward the shuttle bay. I still have concerns about the biological data we've collected. Lisa, we've been through this, Morrison replied. Your findings have alternate explanations. Maybe their record-keeping isn't perfect or we're misunderstanding their evolutionary history. Commander Ryan Blake nodded agreement, though he looked troubled. The linguistic evidence bothers me too, but Ambassador Veltar has been nothing but honest with us. I think we're overthinking this. As their shuttle approached the massive Zephyrian flagship, Morrison marveled at its size. The vessel was larger than anything humans had ever built, its smooth surface gleaming in the light of the nearby star. Smaller ships from the 7 Alliance species surrounded it in perfect formation. Inside the flagship, the ceremony hall was breathtaking. Representatives from all 7 species stood in formal arrangements, their diverse forms creating a beautiful display of galactic unity. Veltar waited at the center with an ornate treaty document prepared in both human and Zephyrian languages. Captain Morrison, Veltar announced, today marks the beginning of a new era for humanity. Your species will find safety and prosperity within our alliance. As Morrison reached for the signing implement, alarms suddenly erupted throughout the ship. Zephyrian crew members rushed to control stations, their peaceful expressions replaced by urgent concern. What's happening? Morrison asked. Before Veltar could answer, the ceremony hall's main screen activated, showing the dark space outside. A human battleship materialized from nowhere, its angular hull bristling with weapons. Morrison had never seen anything like it. This is Captain Nick Davis of the USS Retribution to all ships in the area, came a broadcast voice. Do not sign that treaty. The Zephyrian alliance is not what they claim to be. Morrison stared in shock. Captain Davis? I've never heard of the USS Retribution. The screen switched to show Davis on his bridge, flanked by crew members holding data tablets. Behind him, horrific images appeared. Destroyed planets, ruined cities, and floating debris fields. Captain Morrison, the Zephyrians are not peaceful allies. They are systematic exterminators who use diplomacy to study their victims before destroying them. We have evidence from multiple destroyed civilizations. Veltar's golden eyes narrowed dangerously. Captain Morrison, this is clearly some kind of military deception. Your own species is trying to sabotage our alliance. But Davis continued broadcasting evidence. The missing human colonies weren't destroyed by natural disasters. They were wiped out when the Zephyrians eliminated indigenous alien civilizations in those systems. We found the ruins, the records, and the warnings they tried to send. The screen showed images from the alien cities Dr. Amy Foster had discovered. Morrison recognized the blast patterns and weapon signatures. This wasn't natural destruction. Look at your biological data, Dr. Palmer, Davis continued. The genetic bottlenecks you found weren't from ancient disasters. They're from recent genocides. The 7 Alliance species aren't willing partners. They're the only survivors of their worlds kept alive as slaves. Dr. Palmer gasped as the implications hit her. Jake, the population reductions I found, they match the time frame of when these civilizations were destroyed. Commander Blake was studying the alien records displayed on the screen. Captain, I can see linguistic patterns here that match my concerns about forced cooperation rather than natural alliance development. Veltar's mask of friendship finally cracked completely. His voice turned cold and mechanical. You have interfered with the harvesting process. This is unfortunate but not unexpected. Humans were selected for elimination precisely because of your unpredictable nature. Morrison stepped back in horror. Harvesting process. Your species showed too much potential for independent development. Your biological diversity and technological adaptability represent a future threat to proper galactic order. The diplomatic approach was simply the most efficient method of cataloging your assets before disposal. Around the ceremony hall, the 7 Alliance species began moving toward the exits, but not to escape. Morrison realized they were blocking all routes out of the room. These weren't willing allies celebrating a new friendship. They were prisoners following orders to prevent the humans from leaving. The medical technology, the star charts, the protection, it was all lies? Morrison asked. Veltar smiled, but now it looked predatory rather than friendly. Not lies, exactly. We do possess advanced medical technology, acquired from the civilizations we have processed. Your people will contribute to our medical knowledge before termination. We have found that fear hormones produce interesting biochemical reactions in various species. Dr. Palmer grabbed Morrison's arm. Jake, we have to get out of here. If they've been studying us for months, they know exactly how to target Earth's ecosystems and population centers. Commander Blake was frantically working on his portable communication device. I'm trying to contact our shuttle, but something's jamming our signals. On the main screen, Captain Davis was coordinating with someone off camera. Captain Morrison, if you can hear this, we're detecting massive weapon systems emerging from the Zephyrian fleet. Their exploration ships were actually disguised warships. Throughout the fleet, the smooth hulls of Zephyrian vessels were opening to reveal hidden missile batteries and energy weapons. What had appeared to be peaceful exploration ships transformed into instruments of destruction. The processing of your species will begin immediately, Veltar announced. Earth's defensive capabilities have been thoroughly analyzed during our diplomatic exchanges. Your planet will be efficiently sterilized within 6 standard time units. Morrison felt rage building inside him. All those friendly conversations, all the cultural exchanges and biological samples. The Zephyrians had been planning Earth's destruction from the very beginning. But then he heard something unexpected. One of the Alliance species representatives, a tall being with crystalline features, spoke in a whisper that sounded desperate and afraid. "Help us," the being said in broken English. "We are prisoners. They force us to help or they kill remaining families." Commander Blake understood immediately. "Captain, the Alliance species aren't willing partners. They're being coerced into participating in genocides." More of the alien representatives began speaking quietly, their voices full of pain and regret. They had watched the Zephyrians destroy dozens of civilizations, forced to help or face complete extinction of their own species. Dr. Palmer was downloading data from her scanner, capturing everything she could about Zephyrian biology and technology. "If we can get this information back to Earth, maybe our people can find weaknesses to exploit." Morrison made a decision. "We're not signing anything and we're not going quietly. Humans don't surrender without a fight." Veltar laughed. "Your defiance was predicted and calculated into our plans. It will make no difference to the final outcome." But as alarms continued sounding throughout the ship, Morrison realized that Captain Davis and the USS Retribution weren't giving up either. For the first time since the ceremony began, he felt a spark of hope. The Zephyrians had made one critical error in their calculations. They had studied humanity's peaceful diplomatic nature, but they had never seen what humans were capable of when their survival was threatened. They were about to learn. The battle began the moment Captain Morrison and his team broke free from the Zephyrian ceremony hall. The Alliance species prisoners had quietly helped them escape, providing directions through the massive flagship while Zephyrian security forces searched for them. Captain Nick Davis watched from the Retribution's bridge as the Zephyrian fleet dropped all pretense of peaceful exploration. Weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments, and their ships moved into attack formation around Earth's small diplomatic vessel. "Captain Davis," came Morrison's voice over a crackling communication channel. "We're trapped aboard their flagship, but Dr. Palmer managed to download critical biological data about the Zephyrians. They have several key weaknesses." "What kind of weaknesses?" Davis asked while his crew prepared the Retribution's weapons. Dr. Palmer's voice joined the transmission. "Their immune systems are incredibly specialized. They've engineered themselves to be resistant to most toxins and diseases, but that specialization makes them vulnerable to specific biological agents. I also found something interesting about their technology." The Retribution shook as Zephyrian energy beams struck its shields. Davis could see more enemy ships moving toward Earth's position in the outer solar system. "Amy, get me a tactical analysis of their fleet composition," Davis ordered his science officer. "Lisa, what did you find about their technology?" "The Zephyrians don't actually innovate," Palmer explained as explosions echoed in the background of her transmission. "Everything they use is stolen from conquered civilizations. Their ships, their weapons, even their medical technology. It's all copied from species they've destroyed." Commander Blake's voice added urgently. "Captain Davis, the Alliance species prisoners are rebelling. They're sabotaging systems throughout the fleet, but the Zephyrians have some kind of control devices implanted in them." Dr. Amy Foster at her science station suddenly looked up with excitement. "Captain, I think I know what those control devices are. The alien records mentioned biological implants that suppress free will. If we can disrupt them." "Do it," Davis ordered. "Broadcast whatever signal you think will work." As the Retribution fought against overwhelming odds, Foster worked frantically to modify their communication systems. She had studied the brain patterns of various alien species and theorized that a specific electromagnetic frequency might interfere with the Zephyrian control implants. The first sign of success came when several Zephyrian ships suddenly stopped firing and began attacking their own fleet instead. The Alliance species prisoners had regained control and were turning their ships' weapons against their captors. "It's working," Morrison reported from the flagship. "The crystalline beings just took control of a weapons battery and they're targeting Zephyrian command centers." But the Zephyrians adapted quickly. Ambassador Veltar's voice echoed across all communication channels, speaking in multiple alien languages. The freed prisoners began collapsing as backup control systems activated. They have secondary implants, Palmer realized. The Zephyrians planned for possible rebellion. Davis made a desperate decision. All ships, this is Captain Davis. We're going to ram their flagship and rescue the diplomatic team. Foster, keep broadcasting that disruption signal on all frequencies. The Retribution charged directly at the massive Zephyrian vessel, its weapons blazing. Smaller human ships that had been hiding in the asteroid belt suddenly appeared, joining the attack. Admiral Cooper had secretly positioned Earth's entire defense fleet throughout the solar system. Admiral Cooper, to all vessels, came a transmission from Earth. The Zephyrian invasion fleet has been detected approaching our outer defenses. All military units are now active and engaging the enemy. The battle spread throughout the solar system as hundreds of Zephyrian ships emerged from hiding places among the planets and moons. They had been positioning themselves for months while conducting their peaceful diplomacy, ready to strike the moment the treaty was signed. But Earth's defenders had been preparing too. Hidden weapon platforms activated on asteroids and space stations. Human ships used guerrilla tactics, striking fast and disappearing into the darkness between worlds. Captain Morrison and his team fought their way through the Zephyrian flagship toward their shuttle bay. The Alliance species prisoners, despite their control implants, were helping however they could. Some had found ways to partially resist the devices, while others sacrificed themselves to create diversions. "Jake," Dr. Palmer called as they ran through a corridor filled with smoke and debris. "I've been analyzing the ship's structure. The Zephyrians built this thing by combining technologies from dozens of conquered species. That means it has conflicting systems and weak points." Commander Blake was using his linguistic skills to communicate with alien prisoners they encountered. "Captain, I'm learning their weak points from the survivors. The Zephyrians rely too heavily on centralized control systems. They reached the shuttle bay to find their vessel surrounded by Zephyrian guards. But before Morrison could figure out how to get past them, the guards suddenly collapsed as Foster's electromagnetic signal found the right frequency to disrupt their neural implants. The shuttle raced away from the flagship just as the USS Retribution's weapons punched through its shields. Captain Davis had positioned his ship to rescue the diplomatic team while simultaneously crippling the Zephyrian command vessel. Throughout the solar system, the tide of battle began turning in humanity's favor. The Zephyrians had superior numbers and individual ship power, but they couldn't adapt to human unpredictability. Earth's defenders used tactics no other species had tried: ramming attacks, kamikaze runs, and coordinated strikes on single targets. More importantly, the freed Alliance species prisoners were sharing critical intelligence about Zephyrian weaknesses. Each liberated ship became an ally providing tactical information about enemy fleet movements and vulnerable systems. Dr. Palmer's biological warfare suggestions proved devastatingly effective. Human ships began broadcasting modified electromagnetic signals that interfered with Zephyrian neural systems, causing their crews to become disoriented and sick. Captain Davis, Admiral Cooper transmitted from Earth Command, "We're detecting Zephyrian reinforcement fleets approaching from multiple directions." This was apparently their backup plan if the peaceful approach failed. But humanity had backup plans too. Captain Morrison's team had reached Earth and was coordinating with scientists worldwide to mass-produce the biological agents that affected Zephyrians. Within hours, every human ship and defense platform was equipped with weapons specifically designed to exploit their enemies' engineered weaknesses. The final phase of the battle came when the liberated Alliance species made a collective decision. Despite the pain of their control implants, they chose to fully rebel against their Zephyrian masters. Ships throughout the enemy fleet turned their weapons inward, creating chaos and confusion. The crystalline beings, who had been among the first species conquered by the Zephyrians, proved to be exceptional warriors when freed from mental control. Their ship's energy weapons were perfectly calibrated to penetrate Zephyrian shields. As the enemy fleet began retreating, Ambassador Veltar sent a final transmission to Earth. "This victory is temporary, humans. Other species will be sent to complete your processing. The galaxy cannot tolerate your chaotic influence." But Captain Morrison had a response ready. "Ambassador, you made one critical error in your calculations. You studied our peaceful nature, our desire for friendship and cooperation. But you never considered what humans become when we're protecting others from predators like you. The surviving Zephyrian ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, but they were pursued by a combined fleet of humans and liberated Alliance species. The hunters had become the hunted. In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Cooper stood in Earth Command's main operations center, surrounded by reports of victory. The Zephyrian threat to Earth had been eliminated, but the broader implications were just beginning. "Admiral," Kate Sullivan reported, "we're receiving transmissions from dozens of other star systems, species that survived previous Zephyrian. Attacks are asking for our help in hunting down the remaining extermination fleets." Cooper smiled grimly. "Then I guess we'd better start building more ships. The galaxy has a predator problem and Earth just became the solution." Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, led the first Joint Species Task Force to liberate worlds still under Zephyrian occupation. Dr. Palmer's biological research had opened new possibilities for defeating the genocidal aliens wherever they hid. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven something important to the galaxy. When faced with extinction, humans didn't surrender or beg for mercy. They fought back with everything they had, and they never abandoned those who needed protection from monsters. The Zephyrians had made first contact believing they would easily harvest another primitive species. Instead, they had awakened Earth's guardian instincts and united dozens of surviving civilizations under human leadership. The peaceful first contact had indeed changed everything, just not the way the Zephyrians had planned.